Adam Burke is going to join us. He does a great job writing and contributing to VSiN across all platforms that we have here, and he put together and helped write the VSiN NFL betting guide, which is what we have coming out tomorrow. And among his bets, Pauly, he has a team in there for the most wins that he'll tell you about later on. And he also makes a case for highest scoring team in the league this year, and that being the Detroit Lions. And that number currently is sitting at 14-1 at DraftKings. And when you go back a year ago and look at the highest scoring teams in this league, KC actually did end up leading the NFL in scoring last year at 29.2 points per game, just a tick ahead of Philadelphia. Behind them, it was Buffalo third. Dallas was number 4, and there was Detroit chiming in at 26.6 points per game a year ago. I know you mentioned this week that you don't like some of the losses that they had offensively. The key here is going to be can Jared Goff repeat what he did last year under first-year offensive coordinator Ben Johnson with the Lions?
Yes, that's a big question for Detroit. I like that he's taken a shot here in the middle of the pack. It's another phenomenal prop idea that DraftKings has. But you look at the top with the usual cast of characters and what they did last year. You mentioned the Chiefs were number 1, the Eagles are number 2, and Dallas. I was pleasantly surprised to see Dallas up there. What they were, they've scored 467 points last year, right around the same that Detroit did. And then you have the 49ers on that list as well. I would take a peek at the Chargers if I didn't want to go chalk in the 16-1 range. But, maybe Jacksonville, that could be a little aggressive, but we expect Lawrence to have a big year. And you get Ridley now in that trade and eligible to play, reinstated. And certainly if Tua stays healthy with the Dolphins, but that's a great idea for a prop. I can't go Jets, though, because they're going to be too much ground and pound with the rushing attack.
Yeah, I can't go Jets. There's no way I could back that team. I don't think I can go Bills. I could actually go Cowboys. I think their offense is going to be elite again this year. I mean, I know Prescott had major problems turning the ball over a year ago.
Yeah.
But offensively, I mean, look at what they did. They brought in Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb. The offensive line is still basically top 5, top 8 in the NFL. And you'll find out later on today, I am ultra high on Tony Pollard this year. The problem is, that defense can also be one hell of a unit this year. So if they get leads, what do they do at that point? Are they just, melting clock? Are they going to try to expand on the lead in the third quarter, early fourth quarter? If they have a, let's say, 28-6 lead in some of these games, they might not. So that could kind of damper their chances. The 49ers are actually 14-1, tied with the Lions.
Yeah.
And right there behind the Cowboys. They did average 25.9 points per game last year. This team offensively, they have so many weapons, it's scary. But the question, again, is going to be the quarterback spot, right? I mean, if Purdy... That was such a small sample size. The kid almost came in, not even midway through the year. It almost stole the Rookie of the Year offensively.
It was great.
He was phenomenal.
Yep.
So if he would stay healthy, a lot of ifs here, obviously, and play the entire year, I could see something like that with the 49ers. Shanahan, a great offensive mind.
Yep. That could happen. Yep. No doubt about it at 14-1. And maybe we're too much anti-Buffalo. Because Buffalo was third in scoring last year, and they're the tied for the third choice with Cincinnati at plus 850. But you would think that Allen has to have a better year than what he had. I mean, especially down the stretch, he was so bad in some of those games,
okay.
and then the silly turnovers with the interceptions as well.
So two things are starting to scare me. One, we talked about yesterday, of the 20 people who had picks in the VSiN betting guide, 15 of us have the Bengals going to the Super Bowl. 15 out of 20. Mm-hmm. So now that scares me. I'm one of them. Another thing that scares me is it doesn't matter where you tune in at. Could be VSiN, could be ESPN, could be wherever. The narrative on the Bills this year is pretty much the same across the board, and that is major question marks. I expect a step back from this team. Is that going to happen? I mean, I think that there's a chance it could, but when everybody is saying that, it seems like it's too obvious.
Well, I'm concerned about the Diggs thing. You have to be. That appear they're not on the same page, and he was upset about something. Imagine what the ticket was last year on fewest points, and that went to Denver at 287, as Wilson was a debacle and Hackett unmitigated disaster. Your favorite there is Arizona plus 650. Now, with the network, they're getting a lot of respect, the Packers. But around the league and in the betting markets, no respect when you see their odds and higher odds to win the division than the Chicago Bears. Arizona plus 650, Tampa 10-1, Houston, Indy, Green Bay 11-1, and then the Titans and Washington 12-1, Rams and Panthers 14-1. Lowest scoring team.
Oh man, I could easily see the Buccaneers.
Absolutely. Sure.
Their win total is 6.5, which might be too high.
You can't see Washington? I mean, if it's going to be Howell, what they're going to do at quarterback and Chernoff making the case, Rivera, first coach fired? I mean, what happens if Stafford gets hurt again, as you've talked about? What if the Titans, this could be it for Tannehill in Tennessee, if they give it to Levis and they move on from Henry and make a trade at the deadline? I mean, there's so many candidates that jump out. Plus, you're going to start with rookie quarterbacks, and what does Indianapolis look like? Can they fix the offensive line? There are a lot of good candidates on here for lowest scoring team.
Those two teams that you brought up at 12-1, actually, both, they kind of make some sense. And again, the reason being here is you need to find some teams that are going to be in like low-scoring games, obviously. Titans fit that bill. Titans, really good defense, up front anyway. And the Commanders have that kind of a defense, too, where they could keep them in, lower-scoring contests. I could see that happening to both teams. You have no idea what Sam Howell is going to look like. And if Tannehill just is no good and they, if Vrabel wants to run the football ad nauseum with Henry again this year, and if at some point they decide that Tannehill is not going to be the guy for 2023, and they put in Will Levis, sure, I could see something like that happening.
Couldn't you make a case for Atlanta if it doesn't work out with Ritter? I know they have all these weapons, but you got to get them the ball, though, at some point.
Well,
Denver,
speaking of a coach that likes to run the football a lot.
That's right. Denver was dead last, fewest points last year, 287. Houston and the Colts had 289, and the Jets had 296. But I'm sure there was a big ticket on the Broncos.
No question.
No one expected them to go to the playoffs, like a lot of people, and they were awful.
Yeah, and by the way, just to put a lid on this conversation, the highest scoring team, again, going back to that for a second, the teams that have the top 5 easiest schedules this year, the Saints actually have number 1 based on their opponent's average win total. Falcons are number 2, Colts 3, Panthers 4. 3 of those teams play in the same division. That makes sense. And the 49ers have the 5th easiest schedule in 2023. But I was looking at their schedule yesterday. It's in that division, you would say, okay, they're winning minimum of 4 games, right? Because they'll probably sweep the Cardinals. They'll at least take 1 from Seattle and 1 from the Rams, maybe both from the Rams. But beyond that, I think it's a pretty difficult schedule. I mean, again, the first 6 games here, I don't think you can. We're not going to play the schedule game, but you can't take a magic marker and say, circle the game at the Steelers. That's going to be a win. It's a very difficult game to begin here in week 1. This team went to Chicago, and there was a quagmire last year, and they lost. But then they get, minus the divisional games here. Giants at home on a short week Thursday night. They get the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football in week 5. Then they go at the Browns, at the Vikings, and the Bengals at home before the bye. By the way, after the bye, the first game at Jacksonville. So they have some pretty difficult opponents that are not in the NFC West this year.
Well, I'd rather have them, though, for most wins than Cincinnati, though. And Cincinnati has better odds. I'd take the 49ers at 8-1 for most wins compared to plus 750 because of the division that the Bengals play in. I think, and the 49ers, again, what they did with Purdy when he came in there, just an embarrassment of riches. A great coach and so many weapons and a nasty defense. Yep. They didn't give up anything last year.
Again, that 3-game stretch, I don't like that the league actually does this. But, again, it's after the bye. They're at Jacksonville. They come back home to Tampa Bay. Then this is the 3-week stretch. At Seattle on Thursday Night Football. They then fly across the country to play at Philadelphia. That's going to be a hell of a game. And then they come back home in week 14 to play Seattle again. So they've been doing this more and more in recent years. Divisional teams that play each other twice in 3 weeks.
It's stupid.
I can't stand it.
If Burke nails this at 15-1, what do you think the record is? If Jacksonville has the most wins, what do you think it would be? 13? Can they get to 14 wins?
I think 13 they'll split with another team.
Yeah.
If they would win,
Sounds about right,
if
yeah.
they would win 14, I think they can win it on their own.
Yeah.
But I do think that multiple teams can win 13.
Yeah. And again, this is the Jets all over again from a few years ago. Fewest wins. Arizona's 2-1. Oh, God. 2-1. The next choice is Houston at 8.
There's a big difference there.
That is. And there's people in our guide making the case for the under 4.5 with Arizona.
I know.
Oh, man.
You think it's automatic that the Cardinals are going to have the fewest wins in the league? I don't. Nothing's automatic. Nothing's a lock.
There's a chance with the Texans, yes.
Yeah, there's a chance with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, oh, sure, yeah, no doubt. With what you're doing at quarterback and Bowles, absolutely. It's going to be a huge drop-off with Brady gone, yes.
Yep.
Visit VEASAN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VEASAN sports betting podcasts.